This is the Brown Boy Wonder podcast.
Welcome to the Brown Boy Wonder podcast. In this YEEERRRR episode, my guest and I are going to talk about whatever we want. My guest here is a former colleague of mine. People say he looks like Tom Selleck. Here's Richard. Richard, man, how you doing, man?
I'm honored to be here, doing great. Love what you got going on with the podcast, man.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, man, let's just talk about you, man. You're a very interesting guy. The first time I met you, you are like probably the person who you want to be around with. But let's get into the basics here, man. You were born in Dallas, Texas, is that right?
Yes. Honestly, one of the biggest claims for Dallas, Texas, really. A lot of people focus on the Cowboys. A lot of people focus on some of the great cuisine there. But really, the claim to fame for Dallas is the fact that I was born there, honestly.
Oh, okay. I see. But if you're born in Dallas, then how are you a Philadelphia Eagles fan?
So it's really about loyalty,
Mm.
That's what it's about. You're familiar with loyalty. You're a Jets fan. But it's really about loyalty. I got assigned to a Pop Warner team when I was a kid, and it was the Eagles. And that was there was a team. Do you remember the NFL Street video game?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the GameCube, I loved playing with the Eagles. I don't know what it was. They had like a good team that year. And believe it or not, I think the year that came out, based on the rosters, I think that's the year they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. So that's probably why I enjoyed using their team so much. But I just fell in love with Donovan McNabb and that afro on the video game.
Yeah.
And then when I got assigned to the Eagles on my Pop Warner team, I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna stick. And believe it or not, the exact same thing happened with the New York Yankees. I was a fan of the Yankees, and I got assigned to the I got assigned to the North Richmond Hills Yankees,
Mm-hmm.
and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to stick with this.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty neat. But yeah, because not a lot of people are like fans of like other, different state teams. I think you're like the first one that I've known.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, because like I was born in New York. I'm a Jets fan. I'm a Knicks fan.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't see a lot of people like you. But all right. So from the short time I've known you, you seem like the larger than life personality when according to me. But how are you like in high school or like in school in general?
Sure. So, personally, I'm an open book. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I have no problem telling very real answers.
Yeah.
Uh, so if at any point in time you're like, "Hey, man, this is too deep for my podcast. Like, this is really going to hurt the ratings," shut up,
No.
man.
No,
At
man.
any point in time, cut me off. So believe it or not, I was not always the way I am now. There was a point in time where I was really shy and really
Mhm.
quiet, and just a total lame head. Just
Yeah.
total lame. No, but seriously, there was a time where I was different, and then essentially like something happened where I was misperceived by a lot of my peers,
Mm.
and this rumor that was completely false started, and everybody started perceiving me in that way, and so I had to essentially rebrand myself, and so I figured out, hey, like, I like taking risks. I kind of can make people laugh, and then becoming the class clown was kind of like my way to get people to forget about the BS rumor that was never true.
Mm.
And so yeah, that kind of sculpted, and then in high school it kept going because there were lingering parts of the rumor, and then it kind of just took off. It was like, all right, like I've through most of puberty and my adolescence, like I've been being a class clown, and then what are those called? awards in the yearbook for your senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was voted most likely to become a comedian. And honestly, that really shows the intelligence of my graduating class. I mean,
Uh,
Fort Worth Christian really strives to produce intellectual people. And the fact that they voted me most likely to become a comedian, it just really speaks to the fact that they are intelligent, they are aware, and they're making smart decisions. So shout out to the 2013 class of Fort Worth Christian. Um, but yeah, so voted most likely to be humorous later in life, and in a way, I'm still kind of a class clown, but trying to find my niche in terms of still having my humor, but also being a developing professional.
yeah, I mean, like, people, at least for me, I was also class. I mean, if you see me around, I'm more like a quiet guy, like you said before. But in class, I was also a class clown. Not to everyone, but just to my friends, of course. But yeah, I mean, I never saw you as a shy guy. At least, you're more like a talkative person. At least when it came to work.
For sure. See, one of the things I like about you, I do know your sense of humor, and
Mhm.
anyone that follows you or listens to you or sees your TikTok or your Instagram, things like that. Your sense of humor is definitely it's definitely there, and it's definitely a part of who you are. But I kind of envy you to a certain extent because when it's work time and when it's time to get
Like
down
serious.
to yeah, yeah, yeah. You're able, I feel like you're able to turn it off really easy. And my style of humor, I love like pushing the line.
Hmm.
And it's a really, I don't know, man. Everybody's got their drugs. Pushing the line for me, just like that's my high, man. Um,
Oh,
Making a risque joke to a supervisor or something like that, making them laugh. Like I don't know what it is about that boundary line, but it's always been kind of a temptation for me. But I like that about you because I really think you found the perfect middle ground where you're a jokester, but you're able to do something that takes some real effort from me in terms of like, all right, hold it in, Richard, hold it in. So yeah, I've always admired that about you.
thank you. But yeah, I mean, you gotta be like clever when it comes to work because that's like you said, it is risky if you're trying to make any type of joke. Uh, I don't know. You just gotta make it. We just gotta make it clever. It's just gotta because a form of a joke is like you said the joke, but you cannot. The thing is, you cannot repeat that joke. Then it just kills it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Most jokes that have to be repeated or explained are pretty bad jokes most of the time.
yeah, like if someone's trying to tell you, like, yeah, tell that joke again. No, you can't. You can't say that again because you said that joke right that time, but you can't say that again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you had to be there moment.
You have to be there. That's why clever jokes. It's like wit. It's quick and witty. You gotta do it really quick. Of course, jokes can come back around too. That's how most comedians do it. But yeah. So
Well, can I touch on something real quick
yeah.
about what you said? I think it's really fascinating because there's actually my background's in mental health. I'm currently in
Mhm.
a doctorate program for clinical psychology. And there's actually some really fascinating research about humor. The higher level of humor someone has is correlated with a higher level of intelligence. So
Mm.
there is a sort of aspect of intelligence where you're able to perceive something and you're also able to perceive that other people would find this humorous, and then you're able to deliver it in a certain way. So all that takes like skill and intelligence to a certain extent, and like you were saying, it all happens in the snap of a finger. So but what's also fascinating is there's additionally some research in terms of if two people are thinking about similar things in a
Mhm.
similar way at the same time, if you were to have an EEG or an fMRI at that moment, you would see similar parts of the brain activated in both individuals. And so what's fascinating is, and I think this is one of the reasons that I love humor so much, it really is like a form of connection and love, because in that moment when someone delivers a joke, everybody understands it at the same time. And then when everybody's laughing and enjoying that joke, everybody's brain is firing in the same way at the same time. So
Mm.
it's like this electrical dance that is happening in a sphere of people. And it's really trippy. I think it's deeper than just people, messing around or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's comedy and what was it? Like another thing. Like it's out of my mind. Comedy and uh
What are you talking about? Like comedy and tragedy?
no, like comedy and like the intelligence of a comedy and something else. I forgot what it was. It's like the same thing.
Oh,
Um, ah, I'll get back to it. But yeah, it it takes a lot of guts to make any jokes at the workplace. I remember you made that one joke. No, I think I made that one joke where I was talking about Antonio Brown and like Mark Davis. I make like a quick Photoshop of them, and I call
yeah.
them what do I call them? It's like Mark Brown or Tony Brown, like
Yeah.
like those dumb things that make people laugh. That's what it is. But yeah, you let me go on here. You majored in psychology, so was psychology like your first love of like of the subject, or is there something else that you're loved with?
Um, yeah, I guess you could say that. Psychology was like the first niche I found where it was like, okay, there's a skill here and it's a legitimate career, and people are telling me I need to figure out what I'm going to do, and I got college coming up, so it kind of plopped in my lap at the right time. Um, but essentially what had happened, I remember like kind of theorizing, when I was younger, like what do I want to do? And I remember there was this funny time with my mom where I got in the car. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I got in the car and I was like, "Mom, I think I want to go into architecture."
Mm.
And my mom just like laid into me and was like, "What are you talking about? You hate drawing. You hate math. This is going to be an absolute grease fire. No, no, no. You're not doing it. You're not doing architecture." And I was like, "All right, so let's go back to the drawing board." And so I, kept my eyes open, and she probably was right looking back. But it seemed like something that I was fascinated by, different designs and buildings, and I've always been a fan of interior design. Um, but I took a high school class called psychology, and my basketball coach taught it, and I was just really
Oh,
fascinated by it. And it wasn't a class where, it wasn't even, I mean, most coaches that teach class, I mean, you're aware, like it's not an academically challenging class.
yeah.
But so what was cool was is he was like, "Look, I'm not going to make this academically challenging because I'm a coach and I got more important things to do athletically wise. But when we do educate you, it's going to be super fascinating stuff to really show you, like, um, some of the juicy elements of psychology." So it really piqued my interest. I enjoyed it. And there was an element of, there was an element of, you know, I think Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, I think he said, "Never do something you're good at for free," and something along the lines of that.
Didn't
And
the Joker said that in The Dark Knight?
possibly, I have my computer right here. Let me look it up, because
Yeah,
I've been quoting Steve Jobs, and if I stole a line from the Joker, maybe that's his villain origin story. Is that
probably.
let's see here. Never do something you're good at for free. Oh my God, it is. All right, hold on. Let me see. Steve Jobs quote about doing something for free. This, yeah, I don't know where. Yeah, all right. So it's the Joker. So, thanks for correcting me on that and holding me accountable. So
No,
the
that's just this is reminding me like that sounds like the Joker.
Yeah. So, but that's actually kind of fascinating, in my opinion, because I mean, did you see the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie?
I did.
Yeah. So there's a lot of psychology laced in there. Not only, I mean, not only does he have like a therapist in the movie, um, and there was that famous scene where he's like, you guys just don't get it."
Hmm.
Um, and so so it's fascinating that that's such a mental health character, and then that was kind of my philosophy about, well, I'm people come to me to talk about things, they ask me advice, it just kind of feels something I've always naturally been good at, and so I was like, okay, let's test this out. At least, if I mean, if you're going to have to read a lot in college, at least read something you're fascinated with. And so that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, psychology. Not a lot of people like really focus on psychology. They make it more like an elective thing, at least for in college. But I did get interested in it, but I just didn't go through with it. But yeah, psychology is a big thing, especially like mental health, like the Joker. You can see like a lot of ways how you could interpret things. But yeah, the since we're talking about mental health, what do you who do you, what do you say to those who are struggling with like bad mental health?
Yeah, so I think what I would say depends on, like, sort of, I guess you could say, like, a case by case basis, in terms of, like, if you want to get into specifics, what is someone, when you say bad mental health, like, what is their personal experience, what's the symptom profile, things like that. But
Mhm.
just in general, for anyone that's going through a mental health struggle, um this may sound cheesy, but just the overall thing that, like, there are resources and there are ways to address what you're going through, and like, even though this is what as your experience with life, that doesn't mean that this is all life will ever be. And so when the right things are done, um, the a new life that someone may have never experienced before blooms and buds, and you know their new consistency, or their new homeostasis, is a much different experience and a much more pleasurable experience. So, um, I think a lot of people tune out the idea of going to resources, or there's a lot of stigmas and stereotypes regarding mental health, and that's actually been something I've been passionate about in my professional pursuits, is to break down those stereotypes, because there's a lot of individuals who hurt, but they don't reach out and they suffer in silence.
Yeah,
Uh, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to see the suicide rates, or successful suicide attempts, rise each year, because more and more people are suffering, and more and more people, statistics show, are um, that people are starting to reach out more, but I think there's also a lot of people who are not reaching out, because of a lot of different things. Um, but yeah, that's kind of a general overview of. And I would also say this. This is kind of my claim to fame to psychology, in my opinion, because
sure.
I stumbled upon this logic when I was, let's see, I was about 23 years old. I was applying to graduate schools before COVID hit, and developing my resume, and I was working in a psychiatric unit, at Parkland Hospital.
Hmm.
And community hospital, anyone is welcome, to receive services there. And the psychiatric unit there was just an absolute melting pot of diversity, different disorders, different acuity levels, different experiences. But what I realized was is that what I realized was is that this is the quote that I have, I guess you could say, invented. And when I say it to people, people are like, "Oh, I actually like that," but I've never heard anybody say like, "Oh, I've heard that before." So this might be my claim to fame in psychology. There's no such thing as crazy. There's only confusion. Either there's chemicals that are confused,
Mhm.
there's brain structures that are confused, or there's thoughts that are confused. And it could be one of those or multiple of those. But when you address the confusion, like peace, joy, and love just naturally bubble to the surface. And so it's really fascinating that um, you don't even have to like teach people to be happy or joyful or peaceful. You just address that confusion, and then it just naturally falls into place. Um, and so that's also what I would tell someone is you're not crazy. There's no such thing as crazy. There's literally just confusion going on. And when you do the right things to address the confusion, bang, bang, boom.
Yeah. Also, like communication is like very important as well when it comes to
Oh,
like mental health.
no doubt.
Um, at least for me, so if I want to do something, if someone's telling me to do something, majority of the time I won't listen. It's about that willpower of like that's for me at least. For example, if someone's trying to tell me like, "Hey, bro, you should lose weight," I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to you because that's I don't know, that's just me. But if I had the willpower, just like, all right, bro. For example, when I was eating Dairy Queen, I had like a triple loaded Snickers blast, whatever, the biggest one. I was eating it and I was like, man, what the hell am I doing with myself? In that instant, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym for the first time ever and I'm gonna keep going with it. It's just that willpower or that spontaneous like thought of like just a drastic change.
Yeah, insight. Um, and Yeah, there's several different types of therapies that are focused on like what are your goals, who do you want to be, and so those insights in terms of the decisions we make um, are very important because they can help us achieve the goals and treat ourselves and treat our mind and treat our body and treat others how we want to, so that we can sculpt the life we want. Um, because so many times people, including myself, like people do the same thing in life again and again, and we think we're going to get different results. But sometimes, really, what we need to do is like try something we haven't tried before. And yeah, so good for you for having that insight. But it's also important to realize that everything's gray in psychology. It's very
Hmm.
rarely black and white. Very rarely. It's always gray. So there is a way to eat that massive amount of Snickers and ice cream and then also have the gym habits you want. It's just all about balance. And so um, I'm glad you had that insight. But for any of the listeners, it's also important to realize that you don't have to be mentally healthy or to be physically healthy. You don't have to completely throw away the fun. It's just about balancing the fun and the discipline. Um, but good for you looking at it and being like, hey, I want to go to the gym. You still doing it?
Yeah, I am. So last year, like not much. I started 2 years ago, but this year I've been going like 3 times a week.
Damn. Ladies and gentlemen, he's don't forget he's going to change the podcast. So make sure when you look up Brown Boy Wonders podcast, did I get that right?
Yeah, Brown Boy Wonder podcast.
Yes, exactly. So for all the listeners out there, he's going to be changing the name to the Swole podcast. So
Oh,
make sure you type in the correct name from here on out. I think it's going to be starting on April Fool's Day, right?
yeah, around there, around
Yeah.
there.
Hey, well, for one day it'll be Swole podcast,
I
and
mean,
then,
I'm gonna look like The Rock.
dude, even he eats once a week. Speaking of The Rock, have you seen his like a Sunday diet?
I did not see that. What does he
It's
eat?
nuts. You look it up on social media. Let me see if I can pull it up right now. There's one day a week where he just goes all out. I think he eats like 20 pancakes, just something ridiculous.
I saw that picture of him like have like 12 stacks of pancakes with like a fork and a knife.
Yeah, let me see here. 10 of Dwayne Rock Johnson's crazy cheat meals. Here we go. See, 12 pancakes, 4 pizzas, and 21 brownies, 5 pints of ice cream. Naturally, the banana chocolate chip pancakes and tequila. 2 bacon cheeseburgers and a midnight sugar train, which is really like slutty brownies.
Oh. Oh my
Uh,
god.
yeah. So yeah, crazy amounts of cheating, but that's another example of balance.
It's all
It's
about
all
portions.
oh yeah, yeah,
You gotta not eat less, but like, don't eat too much.
yeah, no doubt.
But that's the thing. That's the tough part.
Oh yeah,
No-
especially in America, like our portion sizes are, you know, we're subliminally programmed much differently than other countries in the world, and other continents in the world, um, because I think there was a documentary on that. What, Super Size Me?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so that kind of hints at that over that, like our portion sizes and the types of foods that the FDA approves, it's drastically different. So it's very easy to be obese, and I guess in terms of BMI standards, it's very easy to be obese in America, and it can be very hard for people to maintain certain weights, which I've experienced myself. I
Hmm.
don't know if
No, I didn't know. But you're a little overweight guy?
Oh, no, no, no. I just meant like there's been times in my life where I noticed some weight piling on,
Oh.
and I wanted to cut down about 10 or 15 pounds. And I just noticed how it took, I feel like it takes more discipline for an American to lose weight in America
Mm.
than like a European person in Europe to lose weight. I really think it does, because just the portion sizes are different over there. And it's way more difficult to be gluttonous, I guess you could say. And even the plates are different, like the
Yeah.
ordering different, the prices are different. So there's those things, the checks and balances. But here in America, I mean, like, you go to any drive-through and look at what you can get for $5. I mean, uh, yeah, it's just nuts. You can get 1,500 calories for $5 at the snap of the finger. Like, so
It's easy.
unless you got that willpower, which is what you were talking about earlier, like it's so important.
Willpower is the most important thing, but it's tough to maintain. Like being consistent is tough. It's so tough.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
oh yeah. Unless you're like truly passionate about something, like the consistency doesn't come easy for whatever it is.
I mean, you gotta change your lifestyle. To be honest, if you're trying to lose weight, you gotta. But I've seen people having like a keto diet. I'm like, how do you do that?
Oh, the keto diet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read some literature. It's a good like short-term sort of reset program, but the people that stay on it long term, I've seen some literature that doesn't really support long-term benefits. I've tried it several times for short spurts, and it is challenging, man. I mean, because you want um you want like basically like, let's see, it's like 45% to be fat, 45% of your calories and portions for the day fat, 35 35 or 40% to be protein, and then the
Uh-huh.
rest is carbs. So you're literally less than, like, depending upon how tall you are and how much weight you are and what gender you are, or sorry, what sex you are, um, like you could be having less than 20 carbs a day. Like, that's a banana,
Yeah.
and then you're
That's not
done.
much.
Yeah.
Might as well just fast the whole day.
Speaking of fasting, I actually wanted to all the listeners out there, like, do they know about your how impressively, I guess you could say, determined and faithful you are in terms of like once a year?
Yeah, so Ramadan is approaching. I believe it's like March. 11th. I think that's the first day. But yeah, pretty much 30 days of fasting. Don't eat or drink between sunrise to sunset. But yeah, 30 days of that.
Stunning. There's even professional athletes that stick to the regimen. Like it just, stunning. I really don't know if I was forced to, maybe I could, but just the willful decision to, even though I'm very passionate about, the divine presence and pursuing the divine presence, whatever people may attribute to it name wise. Man, that just sounds like such a difficult feat for me personally. But I've always admired that about you. I watched you go through that. Um,
I mean,
run
yeah, I
in
mean
what,
the first
2021.
days, yeah, the first days are tough, but you get used to it. I started when I was when I was like 14, 15.
Damn.
You just build a habit of that. But I would recommend you to try it, man. At least for one day.
Oh, I've done one day. I think I've done 3-day fast with only Gatorade and water.
Mm.
Uh, I think I've done that. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, but that's some long term. I mean, I know you do get to eat during when the sun is not risen, um, and sunset, but you know those hours. I mean, there's a long time that the sun's up, and so that's a
Uh,
long time.
yeah, one time it was during the summer. I think the sunset was around 9 p.m. That was a lot tough. But there's a lot of misconceptions of fasting during Ramadan. People think we lose weight. Definitely not. Definitely not. We do not. We actually gain weight. Because all the food we were eating for that when we break the fast is probably majority of the time is like unhealthy things, more like fried things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it's like around nighttime. You usually don't eat nighttime because you gain more weight. But yeah, you will gain weight. It just depends on what you're eating.
For sure. I mean, even if you weren't eating the fried stuff, I mean, um, I've heard some nutritionists talk about how, like, if someone's going to fast to lose weight, you're going to have to, like, fast, like, maybe not permanently fast for a long term, but fasting's got to be a long term program because you're sending your body into alert mode and your
Hmm.
body's convinced, evolutionary wise, that, like, oh, we need to hold on to stuff, and we need to conserve and not break things down because like it's going to naturally slow metabolism because it's under the impression we don't know when we're going to get food next.
Yeah.
So it takes a while for that alert system to kind of adjust and then the metabolism to speed up again. And so yeah, no, it doesn't shock me that regardless of what people are eating, that like there would be a little bit of weight gain because the body's sort of shocked. And then I bet it's fascinating. Once you start eating again, I bet weight goes off, which is fascinating.
Yeah. At least the first day, I usually get like I just go crazy. But then like later on throughout the days, I barely eat anything. Like I barely eat like a half a plate of like chicken and rice, and I'm done. I don't even. To be honest, if I eat one bite of something, I'm full for that day or for that night. When it came down to like later on during Ramadan. But yeah, man. But yeah, I would try it again without any water or food. I just want to know how you feel at the end.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a go, bite the bullet, and I think I think I can do it. It's just a matter of like, oh, geez, it's a matter of like not wanting to do it. But that's again why I admire you because you're going through with it, even though yeah, it's a part of your cultural background. It's something you've been doing since you were a teenager, but still, I mean, it still takes willpower and self discipline, and um, so I've always admired you for that. And yeah. Can you expand a little bit on like because I actually I don't know the origins of Ramadan or the purpose of Ramadan. So it's your podcast. We can talk about whatever you want. So if you don't want to talk about this, we don't have to. But yeah, I've always been fascinated on like the origin of it, why it started. Yeah.
Yeah, so and essentially is pretty much like you are basically is more being grateful of what you have. Like for example,
Hmm.
food. Food is the most grateful thing from God. I can give you like the literal text. That's more my interpretation. But let me give you the little literal text.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Like,
man.
you're gonna quote from the Quran, or you're gonna send me something?
No, I'll say I'll look up something. Don't worry.
Okay, gotcha.
Uh,
Yeah, while you're looking something up, I've always thought it was fascinating because I do have an undergraduate, like, bachelor's degree in theology, and so I was educated on a lot of different spiritual traditions, but outside of Christianity,
mhm.
um, which is what most American schools tend to focus on. Um, but I always thought it was fascinating that through a variety of cultures and a variety of spiritualities, there is always this idea of like giving something up to get closer to the divine. And I've always thought that's really fascinating. There's that theme of like fasting, and different spiritualities will fast from different things. But I've always thought that that's fascinating, that throughout time and throughout spirituality, there's this consistent theme of going without to get closer. And I always thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. So it's like so Ramadan is a time of spiritual reflection, self-improvement, and heighten the devotion of worship. And like to reinforce of or to remind us about the less fortunate and to reinforce the need to be thankful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'll definitely do it. Um, that'll definitely do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I would yeah, for all the listeners listening, just try it one day. You'll feel it. You'll feel it for sure.
No doubt.
But but yeah, so right now you're in Hawaii, right?
Guilty as charged.
How's that? How's Hawaii, man? Which island are you at?
I'm in Honolulu, which is on the island of Oahu. And it's something else, man. It's actually pretty fascinating. There are some things about Hawaii that are different from a lot of people here say the term mainland, but
Mhm.
from like, different states like Texas, and I lived in New York and went to college, and I've been to California multiple times and Virginia multiple times. And so I just have some different experiences in the United States, but there's been some experiences I've had here in Hawaii that just like I I never would have thought that it would be a purely Hawaiian experience. At least I've visited over half the states in the United States, so
Mhm.
maybe there's other states out there where there's similar experiences. But obviously, the weather's great. There's beautiful views, beaches are nice, things like that. But it's interesting. Like, the people here are there's a different personality and a different vibe and a different sense of humor here that is just like I would have never thought that that would have been the case. It's interesting.
Are they like more welcoming for like non-Hawaiians or Polynesians?
Well, it actually depends. I mean, there's a term haole,
Mm.
which is some people like to use it. Some people think it's funny. Some people think it's derogatory. But basically, anyone who comes to Hawaii that is not of Hawaiian heritage, um, and yeah, basically anyone technically who does not have Hawaiian heritage would be termed a haole when they come to Hawaii. And then once like the first generation comes, and then if they had kids there, then the kids would be locals because they were born and raised there. But the first generation of people that move to Hawaii that don't have Hawaiian heritage, or I guess even Pacific Islander heritage, yeah, would be a haole technically. So I'm a haole, and and then yeah, and then there's natives and there's locals. So if someone says I'm Hawaiian, like if if you're a Texan, you live in Texas, but you weren't even born and raised
Right.
in Texas, but you're a Texan. In Hawaii, if you're born and raised in Hawaii and you don't have the Hawaiian cultural background, you're a local. But
Oh.
it's only said that you're Hawaiian if you actually have a bloodline of Hawaiian heritage, which I thought was fascinating.
Mhm.
Um, and but then yeah, a lot of people actually aren't welcoming of haoles. Um, something I've been um, something that I've seen since my time here, because basically I've been here for about a year, and something I continually get exposed to is there's a lot of there's a lot of history of Hawaiian culture being screwed over and neglected and taken advantage of, and um, because of a lot of United States economic issues and you know different things politically that all the states experience. Um, Native Hawaiians feel like they don't just feel because with a lack of evidence, there's elements of their experience they're experiencing where there's a lot of Native Hawaiians who are low income here, where it's like
Yeah.
this is their family's land, this is their generations have been raised here, and corporations will come in and make this a touristy paradise, and they'll profit off of like sacred land, and then the ones that are wealthy are people that have never had anything to do with Hawaii. So the idea of like foreigners, there's always a sensitivity in terms of like, are you a foreigner that's going to respect us and like work
Mhm.
with us and appreciate what we value here in Hawaii? Or are you a foreigner that views this as like your little playground? And so at first you're kind of like viewed with like, all right, we'll see what this Richard guy is all about. And then they're like, "Oh man, look at him. He's handsome. He's funny. He's smart. I mean, we gotta like this guy." Um, but they'll see, oh, he's understanding of our culture. He respects us, and he feels for the things that we've been through as a culture and a society. And so yeah, then you're kind of welcomed with open arms. But yeah, if you just view it as a resort, you're not gonna get you're not gonna get the most welcomed um, you're not going to get the most welcomed spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hawaii is like the most touristy place to go to in the United States. Um, just because of the, commercialized beach and all that. But for like mental health wise in Hawaii, I think that'd be at least for me. If you want to hike or if you want to go around for the views and like have like a mental break in Hawaii, is that a good place to
Mhm.
go?
Yeah, so it's very. I guess you could say there's a lot of resources here to be healthy
Hmm.
because the food here is. I mean, sure, there's fast food chains, but like a lot of places close early. A lot of places have a lot of like healthy Asian cuisine and Hawaiian cuisine and American cuisine. So it's very easy to be healthy here. There's a lot of walking. There's a lot of sweating because of just like excuse me, just from some natural humidity. So it's easy to be physically healthy here, and then also like mentally healthy. There's, obviously anyone can mentally suffer anywhere, but
Yeah.
there are so many different coping skills and so many different mental breaks, like you were saying, that you can take. I mean, hikes, to the beach, pickleball, golf courses, horseback riding, um, scuba diving, snorkeling, Jurassic Park tours. Um,
All
yeah, the
right.
list goes on and on. What'd you say?
Right, right. I wasn't Jurassic Park filmed in Hawaii? At least the
Yeah.
first one?
Yes, there were different scenes from Hawaii, and I think they have a tour. I don't. I think they have a tour where they'll show you on like four wheelers. Like there'll be a guide, and you guys four wheeler and see like where different things were filmed at and stuff. Pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll probably go there. Yeah,
yeah.
mental.
Get out here. You're always welcome, man.
Hey man, I haven't been there yet, but hopefully one day. Speaking of mental breaks, my phone. my screen time one day on my phone was like 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was too crazy. Usually for me, it's like 4 hours or 3 hours, but like few days were like 8 hours or 10 hours.
Sure.
Uh, that's also like we have to get away from our phones sometimes.
Yeah, phone fasting is a real strategy that's used in therapy, believe it or not, just to like bring people back to the present moment, and it actually decreases a lot of stress if you're picking up your phone every time your phone vibrates to like text somebody or
Yeah,
yada yada. Like, imagine if instead of doing that, you were like appreciating the present moment and doing things that you enjoy. I mean, if you were to do that, let's say that someone's average phone time is 5 hours. I mean, if you do that just for 1 week, that's 35 hours of healthy things. So
mm,
it really adds up. For me, I've never really gotten into the screen time statistic because I think it's all about like the reason the iPhone was so evolutionary was because it was like it was all you needed. You can take notes on there, you can call people on there, you can text people on there, you can take pictures on there, you can respond to email on there, you can play games on there, you can listen to music on there. So there's so many different things to do, and like our phones like put us in a spot to do so many things. For me, I think it's all about how the hours are being used. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Uh, and so, yeah, obviously, if 8 hours are misused and someone's just doom scrolling all day, then clearly not. But if someone's like an entrepreneur and they've got like they're doing orders on their phones and they're talking to, customers and, listening to podcasts while they're working and then texting people every now and then. I think it's all just about like the nitty gritty of what's the breakdown of the hours.
yeah. There was this NBA analyst who was doing like the trade deadlines frenzy, and he said his screen time was what was it, 97 hours?
97 hours out of a week.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's actually stunning because let's see here, hours in a week. There's no way he was sleeping 8 hours.
He was probably not sleeping at all.
Yeah, so 168 hours in a week, and you said what, 90,
7, I think. I think that's what he said.
90? Well, let's round up to 100. So 68 hours was not on his phone. What do you think? Just be generous. 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep.
Maybe 2.
Yeah. So if we'd be generous, do 4 times 7. Was that 28?
Yeah,
Yeah. So then you're left over with 40 hours of the week not on his phone. And then, 40 divided by 7, like 4 point something. Yeah. So that's nuts.
that's that's what it takes to be an NBA analyst. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think.
Especially during that time of the season.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of the season, man, we just ended with the Super Bowl 58, and in my previous episodes, on my sports episodes, we've been slandering the Eagles. We were saying that they were frauds at the last 5 games of the season.
Mhm.
Uh, but what is your take, man? Since you're an Eagles fan, what was your take of their season this past season?
They were frauds all season.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I'm not, I don't mean, so I'm a big fan of the herd with Colin Cowherd.
Hmm.
I'm not. This is not a paid sponsorship or a name plug for all the listeners out there. But just personally, I love the way he perceives things, talks about life. There's just a certain logic that I think is beneficial. But not to quote him, but he pointed out something before the season started, and it kind of just like it just made sense to me. Like I just threw away the whole season. I was like, we might get to the playoffs. There's no way we're going back to the Super Bowl. It would be a miracle if we did. But a lot of people don't know this. At the end of the Super Bowl season, the Eagles lost some players due to
Yeah.
contracts. But but the biggest thing was they lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yes.
And so yeah, it was almost like you could make the argument, especially if you look at the stats, like just a totally different team, same players, but and playmakers, but just a different team, and they didn't have the same identity as they did last year. Um, But man, Super Bowl 57. Oh my gosh, that was an absolute heartbreak. Not as an Eagles fan, just as a football fan.
Yeah.
I told everyone because everyone was like, "Dude, Richard, I'm so sorry," because they know I'm an Eagles fan. I was like, I don't even care that they lost. The fact that the game came down to that call that was not even the most egregious thing. I mean, just the fact that the biggest game of the year for the biggest sport in America was determined by a mediocre call or a mediocre penalty, um, that just sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because that was the game right there. Because then the Chiefs just get to run the clock down and bing, bing, boom. So, so that was disappointing. But yeah, Chiefs. I feel like the Chiefs also owe it to Taylor Swift because there was a really mediocre stretch where they weren't really doing so hot in first couple weeks through halfway through the season, and then all of a sudden Swifty comes in there, shake it off, and then they get on a winning streak, and then bam, now they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Win it.
When the Chiefs faced the Jets, at Jets home, week 4, Taylor Swift was there. I was like, all right, Zach Wilson needs to do something. He got to win. But I thought he did well. At least I thought the team went well in that game, but they didn't pull through. There's a whole mess over the Jets. But
The Jets beat some solid team. I think the Jets beat the Eagles this year. The Jets beat some solid teams.
we did beat the Eagles. We broke their undefeated streak for the
Not,
season.
yeah, that's right.
I wasn't complaining, but I was saying like, oh, who gave that one loss to the Eagles? The Jets.
The Jets. Um, yeah. So, what are you thinking QB wise for the future with the Jets?
I mean, we pay so much money for this guy, Aaron Rodgers. If he still wants to play, if he still has a passion to play for the Jets, I'll accept him. But we still got to look at the future. But he's not gonna play forever. Tom
No, of
Brady
course.
played. Tom Brady's gonna played when he was 45. He's 40, 41, around there. Uh, so I don't feel
Really?
like,
Right?
yeah,
Sorry. Really?
yeah, he's around there. So we have to draft a new quarterback, but I'm going with Aaron Rodgers. Let's go, man. We're putting all our bets in on the table for this season. It was heartbreaking when he got his Achilles torn. I was that
Uh,
first game of the season. That was our Super Bowl, to be honest. The way,
yeah.
yeah, the way we
Yeah.
won,
Waited a
crazy.
long time for like a legendary quarterback like that. Um, and so beginning of the season, fresh start, excitement in the area, really good defense. Yeah, and then just an absolute blow right at the beginning. Um, and then there was quite the controversy about Aaron Rodgers throughout the season. They were like, he's faking it. They're going to use him later in the years.
Hmm.
They don't have to pay him fully. This is a strategy, you know. And then there's all those TikTok videos and Instagram videos about him like walking around supposedly too soon, zipping the ball around. Like there was quite the conspiracy theorist hot takes on Aaron Rodgers throughout the season.
No, I believe it. I think he was faking the entire time. It wasn't that severe as they say, even though the reports said it, but I don't think it was that severe. I was like, he's a conspiracy theorist as well. The things he's been
Oh,
saying.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a free thinker, and I don't know. I think he's got a little bit of contrarian in him, where I think sometimes he goes with things just because it's like it's different. Um,
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
yeah, it's kind of sad though. Like he's not close with his family. I mean, his brother was on The Bachelor. Did you know that?
I didn't. What was his
Oh, sorry.
name?
The Bachelor is the one where there's multiple. No, The Bachelorette is the one where there's multiple guys and one
Yeah.
girl. Yeah, so he was on The Bachelorette. Uh,
Oh.
Did you say which one?
Like, what was his name?
Let me see here. Aaron Rodgers, brother, Bachelor. Yeah, Jordan.
Jordan Rogers.
Yeah, Jordan Rodgers, Bachelorette in 2016. Kind of got a similar smile, but yeah, he's not really close with his family, like by choice. Uh,
Ah,
Kind of like publicly like took shots at his brother while he was on the Bachelorette. So kind of like flying solo. Do you remember when he was dating Danica Patrick?
I did.
What an absolute power duo.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, yeah. But that just I can't even imagine that dynamic.
A race car driver and a quarterback. I don't know. I thought. I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers. He, like you said, he is different.
Yeah.
But win a Super Bowl. Do something for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
They'll
man.
definitely
What?
make playoffs. They'll definitely make the playoffs at some point in Aaron Rodgers' tenure there. Um, yeah. So you guys will definitely get a playoff appearance and a playoff run, which is good. But I don't know. What do you think the future is? Like, you think after Rodgers' contract, you guys will pick up like, I don't know, someone who's kind of middle of the pack halfway through their career, or you think you're going to go all in on a draft pick? What would you do?
If it was me, I would pick up Russell Wilson.
Okay.
He is still young. He's still young. He's in his prime years right now. I know he won beginning of his season, beginning of his career, but I think Russell Wilson should be the guy for us. Because he's been treating badly in Denver.
Hmm.
Uh, I think the Jets will pick him up as well, but well, we'll see. We'll see. Most likely he'll be at Steelers this season. That's what they were
Yeah,
saying.
he's 35 right now.
Yeah, I got a lot of time. Still got a lot of time. But yeah, man. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this episode, man. I'm glad you were here, man. Where can the audience find you in the socials?
And the socials. Anyone is welcome to slide into the DMs.
Of course.
Uh, so on Instagram, you can look up Gent Dixon, GentDickson, like a gentleman, and then another name for Richard is Dixon.
Yeah.
Uh, and then yeah, so you can hit me up on there, and then I don't mind personal phone number 817-566-5084. But yeah, any questions about anything regarding mental health,
Mhm.
resources, if anyone's moving to Hawaii and they wanted like some information before they do that, anything like that. I'm a sociable guy. If you want to talk smack about Abrar, feel free to contact me. I'm always down to do that. So yeah, pretty much. Thanks for having me on, man.
For sure. Well, of course, you can follow this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. I do have an Instagram page. It's new. It's called Brat Boy Wonder Podcast on Instagram. Just follow me there as well. And real quick, do people make fun of you of your first name?
Oh, yes, all the time. Like starting in middle school, I was like, oh, damn it, this is just going to be part of my life, isn't it? Because yeah, but I kind of embraced it, especially with the class clown phase that we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier, and just kind of embraced it. And it's a good introduction joke. And
On three, man. Let's say you're okay. You ready?
wait, what are
Three.
we
We're
what are we
just
doing?
saying. We're just saying you're.
As in like YER, like the kids say?
Yeah.
All right, let's
All
hit
right.
it. Yeet.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Yer.
You're